Ladies and gentlemen, urgent news has just come in from Washington. A peace agreement between Iran and the U.S. is expected to be signed. It looks like we're talking about 2 or 3 days. At least that's what was reported by the Times and Drill CNN. I'll tell you now, certain, let's say 14 points have been sent again. They've been sent to the Iranians and, well, it seems. So what do we actually know about this deal? Today is May 7th, 2026. A one-page memorandum of understanding is being prepared. There are 14 points between the U.S. and Iran. This is not a final agreement. It can't fit on one page. It's a framework agreement that will launch 30 days of detailed negotiations and sort of peace. This has already been reported by CNN, the Times of Israel, Foreign Policy, and Axios. Everyone who could has covered it. The sides are now closer to an agreement than at any point since the war began. The situation as of today is as follows. Iran is studying the proposal. We've already received positive vibes, so to speak, right? So within 48 hours, they should give their answer and reach an agreement. What is Iran giving up? A moratorium on uranium enrichment. The U.S. is asking for 12 to 15 years. They talked about 20, now they've reduced it to 12 to 15.
Вывоз.
The removal of highly enriched uranium. That means, well, they have enough for 10 or 11 bombs. There are options to move these stockpiles to the U.S. Well, for safe storage. Of course, we would want them to be in the U.S. They, of course, would want them to be somewhere else. Well, it's not crucial. What we need right now is 10 to 12 years. The return of IAEA inspectors with expanded functions for conducting nuclear inspections. The lifting of the Iranian blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. What is the U.S. giving up? Sanctions will be lifted gradually, not all at once, but in stages. Unfreezing of Iranian assets. We're talking about billions of dollars of their own money, which has been frozen in international banks since, I think, 2018. Lifting the American blockade of the Strait of Hormuz? Not right this second, so to speak. And after seeing what happens. But still. And stopping the bombing of Iranian facilities. We were already about to bomb civilian oil tankers and other targets, oil tankers and so on. So, today, Trump, he publicly said that if Iran doesn't agree, the bombings will begin. And unfortunately, at a much higher level and with much greater intensity than before. This is a carrot and stick tactic at the same time, not carrot or stick, at the same time, both. This is Trump's signature style. We remember it from North Korea, too. He behaved like this during his first term. And the agreement itself is essentially a remake of the deal Trump withdrew from in 2018, with one very big, I would say significant difference. Iran no longer has a fleet. There is no more military aviation, no more air defense. At least half, if not more, of the military-industrial complex lies in ruins. Iran will need at least 5, maybe more, maybe 10 years to rebuild what was destroyed as a result of the bombings. But the thing is, they won't have enough money for that. Okay, if you compare them, it actually seems like it's all the same. Obama's 2015 deal, a 10 to 15-year moratorium on enrichment, IAEA inspections, lifting of sanctions, unfreezing billions. Trump's 2026 deal, a 12-15-year moratorium, IAEA inspections, lifting of sanctions, unfreezing billions. But that's the main difference. Now Iran has suffered from the war and lost part of its infrastructure, and they don't have money for anything. What did Iran gain? So what did the authorities in Iran gain? It's the opportunity to preserve the regime. The Ayatollahs remain in power. Billions in unfrozen assets, their own money will be returned to them, an end to the war, and a reduction in international pressure. What does the U.S. gain? The end of a war that is unpopular domestically. Look, Trump's approval ratings are falling. The price of oil, how much is gas now? 4.45, 4.46. Overall, the U.S. is experiencing a crisis because of the Hormuz crisis, naturally. A victory narrative for the midterm elections in 2026 is very important. And the nuclear threat to the world pushed back for 12 to 15 years. And in 12 to 15 years, you can fly there and back. Israel. Israel would, of course, prefer the complete destruction of Iran's nuclear infrastructure, not just a moratorium. The agreement essentially preserves Iran's capabilities they can resume in 12 to 15 years. That's why Israel's reaction might be critical. Expect a statement from Netanyahu in the coming days, but as they say, he won't go against Trump. He might just say that they will be watching closely, and if something happens there, then we'll do something about it. But he won't undercut Trump's policy, so to speak. But there's another side as well. Besides, so to speak, Iran and the Iranians, these are two different sides. Israel, America, there are also Americans. America, Americans, the world. Here. What do we win? What do we lose? We win. We win in the sense that the narrative of Trump and the Republicans will be, we bombed Iran, and for the next 10 years it won't be able to threaten the world. During those 10 years, we'll try to help the Iranian opposition so that it comes to power. It doesn't matter whether that happens or not. What matters is that this will be said. Next, this is a way to divert Americans' attention from the problems in Iran. And then there's the price of gasoline. It's like a crime against humanity. Right. And shifting attention to the crimes committed by the Democrats during the administrations of, let's say, our last two great presidents, Obama and Biden. The price of gasoline will go down. The number of jobs will increase, inflation will return to normal, and the Democrats' nightmare story with how many crimes they committed, how they robbed the people, how they robbed the country, and so on, which, so to speak, is all already prepared. It will start to circulate, to come out. And sometime around July, I think in July or August, you'll be hearing all of this everywhere, every single day. The midterm elections in the U.S. are in November, and before then, a large number of districts will be redrawn in accordance with the Supreme Court's decision. And if everything goes as Trump has planned, the Republicans will get the Senate and Congress again with a much larger majority than they have now. This means that Trump's political agenda continues, and the country is moving toward the 2028 election, which means, well, so to speak, under Trump's banner. That's it. Either with Rubio or with Vance, but under Trump's banner. Europe will be forced to build its own armies, to invest in its own defense. The U.S. will shift its military and political attention to Latin America, to our backyard, to our own backyard, as Trump used to say. China will stop its advance towards Southeast Asia. And a number of Arab countries will sign the Abraham Accords with Israel. In other words, the world will move in that direction, which was outlined by Trump during the 4 years between the two presidencies. So if the military actions in Iran really do stop, as we said they will stop in May, I had also said it would happen before May 15th, but in recent days I've started saying that most likely it will be by the end of May. But it seems that by May 15th, as my gut was telling me from the beginning, by May 15th we will handle this, I hope. Well, if not, then at the very latest, by the end, right? So the world will also go according to in all those countries that follow the same path as America, the path of capitalism, the path of competition, a free market will develop, personal freedom will develop and improve, freedom of expression, and the freedom to do what you want with yourself, your time, and the products you produce. Anything you want, as long as you don't do to others what you wouldn't want them to do to you. Otherwise, do whatever you want. There. Well, I hope that within the next 2 months we'll get out of there, out of the Middle East. Well, we'll stop the war, slowly start to withdraw, so to speak, and leave completely. They'll start signing those agreements there, the Abraham Accords. And what we hoped for when we elected Trump as our president will start happening and will continue to happen. That's all, ladies and gentlemen. We'll wrap up for today and see you very soon, because this was an emergency episode, and next we'll return to our regular, normal, daily episodes. Goodbye.